What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Talk. Today, let's get started with Daniel Cormier recently shared his perspective on Paddy Pimblett's rise in the UFC lightweight division and offered a clear assessment of where he believes Pimblett currently stands. According to Cormier, Paddy has made undeniable progress and showcased significant improvements, particularly in his most recent performances. However, Cormier maintains that Pimblett still needs one more decisive, high-level victory before being considered ready for a title shot. Cormier explained that the UFC had explored the possibility of matching Pimblett against Justin Gaethje, and he believes that a win over someone of Gaethje's caliber, especially when added to Paddy's current momentum, would place him firmly in the title conversation. Gaethje represents one of the division's elite, and defeating him would prove that Pimblett is not only popular but legitimately prepared to challenge for the lightweight championship. While Cormier acknowledges Paddy's steady development and praises the way he has righted the ship, he still feels that Pimblett needs a bit more experience inside the octagon before stepping into a championship fight. Cormier then shifted his focus to what he sees as the real fight to make right now, Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan. In his view, this matchup has all the elements of a blockbuster, competitive skill sets, rising star power, and genuine hostility. He pointed out the recent verbal exchanges and physical interactions between Topuria and Tsarukyan, including claims by Topuria that he slapped Arman, and Arman countering that Topuria merely touched his face but exaggerated the incident afterward. According to Cormier, this natural tension makes the fight easy to promote and even easier for fans to get invested in. Cormier emphasized that both Topuria and Tsarukyan are phenomenal talents, dangerous, complete fighters capable of beating anyone on a given night. Topuria, he says, is a different beast, while Tsarukyan is equally relentless and technically sharp. What excites Cormier the most is the competitive balance. Topuria is capable of defeating anyone in the world, yet Tsarukyan possesses the skill and intensity to push him to the limit. For Cormier, that is what defines a great championship matchup: two elite athletes entering the octagon knowing the challenge ahead will be immense, compelling, and worthy of the spotlight. Before we jump into the next story, we have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. It really helps us out, and ensures you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. Merab Dvalishvili recently opened up about his evolving relationship with former UFC bantamweight champion Petr Yan, revealing that the Russian contender has gradually grown on him since their first meeting inside the octagon. The two are scheduled to run it back in a highly anticipated rematch at UFC 323 next month, but the build-up ahead of their second fight feels noticeably different from the tension-filled atmosphere that surrounded their first encounter. Reflecting on the lead-up to their initial fight, Merab admitted that there was a significant amount of animosity between the two. There were sharp words exchanged, intense stare-downs, and a competitive edge fueled by personal pride. Merab even recalled a strong statement he once made, that he could handle losing to any fighter in the division except Petr Yan, and that a loss to Yan would torment him more than any other defeat. At the time, he felt a singular determination driven by the rivalry. However, after their fight, Merab's perspective shifted. He explained that once you defeat someone, there's an instinctive desire to see them succeed afterward. Watching Yan compete again, Merab found himself rooting for him. Every time Yan stepped into the cage following their fight, Merab said he was cheering, "Let's go, Petr, win this one." Part of that comes from wanting your past victories to age well. Beating a top opponent who continues to perform at a high level reflects positively on your own resume. But Merab also realized that, over time, he simply began to appreciate Yan as a competitor. He even acknowledged that the trash talk and back-and-forth exchanges he directed at Yan before their first fight had softened. Their interactions became more respectful, and Merab found himself genuinely liking the man he once saw as a bitter rival. He admitted that it's difficult to maintain hostility towards someone who treats you with respect, especially after Yan called him out again in a polite and sportsmanlike manner. Merab joked that he almost needed to force himself to be mad just to stay in that competitive mindset. Even so, he remains fully prepared for the rematch. While the animosity may have faded, the stakes have not. Both fighters understand that this second meeting is crucial for their careers, and Merab knows that once the cage door closes, admiration and friendliness will give way to pure competition. Move on to another news. Arman Tsarukyan recently appeared on Daniel Cormier's YouTube channel, where he spoke in detail about how he believes a future fight with UFC featherweight champion Ilia Topuria would unfold, and how he intends to finish him. Confident, composed, and direct, Tsarukyan made it clear that he sees multiple multiple paths to victory against Topuria, insisting that he matches up well with him in every area. When Cormier asked how he would beat Topuria, given that no opponent has managed to defeat the undefeated champion, Tsarukyan didn't hesitate. He declared that he could beat Topuria everywhere, whether on the feet or on the ground. He even added that he is willing to finish the fight in whatever fashion fans want to see, promising he could deliver it. Among the possible methods he revealed, Tsarukyan emphasized his axe kick, a technique he has showcased in training. He confidently stated that he could make Topuria tired, control the pace, and eventually land a devastating axe kick to score the knockout. Cormier, amused and impressed, agreed that Tsarukyan possesses the athleticism and explosiveness to make such a finish possible. In addition to discussing Topuria, Tsarukyan addressed the question of whether he would accept another fight before receiving a title shot. His answer was immediate: absolutely not, unless the opponent were Conor McGregor. Tsarukyan said he has no intention of risking his position in the lightweight title picture against anyone other than the sport's biggest star. The only fight that would tempt him before a championship opportunity, he explained, is a blockbuster matchup with McGregor. Cormier then brought up McGregor's statements about returning from what he described as a spiritual journey. Tsarukyan responded bluntly, stating that McGregor would never agree to fight him and that the UFC would never book that matchup, calling it a nightmare for the former champion. According to Tsarukyan, his pressure, pace, and grappling heavy style would be too overwhelming for McGregor, making the fight highly unfavorable for the Irish superstar. Tsarukyan ultimately made one thing clear: his focus is on becoming UFC champion, and he sees Ilia Topuria as a challenge he is ready and eager to conquer. Move on to another news. Jon Anik recently shared his thoughts on Belal Muhammad's current trajectory in the UFC welterweight division, offering a candid but respectful assessment of what he believes Muhammad must focus on to remain competitive with the new wave of elite contenders. Anik, who considers Muhammad a close friend of the family, admitted that evaluating him with a critical eye can be challenging. Still, he emphasized that honesty is essential when examining what it will take for Muhammad to reach the next level. According to Anik, Muhammad has always been a highly skilled striker and an intelligent, well-rounded fighter. However, with the emergence of powerful, dynamic talents in the welterweight landscape, athletes with diverse tools and increasingly sophisticated styles, Anik believes that Muhammad will need to lean more heavily on his wrestling if he hopes to stay at the top. Anik suggested that if Muhammad truly intends to bridge the gap between himself and the division's elite, he may need to commit long-term to sharpening his grappling, even referencing the value of spending extended time training in Dagestan, a region renowned for producing dominant wrestlers. Anik explained that while Muhammad's striking has improved dramatically over the years, striking alone won't be enough to secure a world championship. No one becomes a champion as a one-trick pony, he said. In his view, Muhammad's best path to controlling fights lies in maintaining a strong wrestling foundation, using his striking primarily as a setup to get the fight where he is most effective, on the mat, where he can dictate pace, position, and pressure. Joining Anik in the discussion, another analyst agreed, praising Muhammad for being honest with himself about where he needs to improve. They noted that self-awareness is one of Muhammad's greatest strengths and that his willingness to acknowledge weaknesses is exactly what will allow him to evolve. The analyst emphasized that Muhammad's striking should serve as an entry point to wrestle, not as the central focus when facing the division's most dangerous opponents. Overall, Anik and his colleague expressed confidence that if Muhammad prioritizes his wrestling, reinforces his grappling, and continues to use his striking as a tool to open opportunities, he can not only keep up with the top welterweights but potentially dominate them. Move on to another news. Recent reports suggest that Ilia Topuria will not be fighting in January, despite early speculation that he might headline the first UFC card under the new Paramount banner. According to Alvaro Coniro, who has been closely monitoring the situation, several unexpected developments have taken place behind the scenes. He explained that private circumstances have shifted plans significantly, and fans should prepare for surprises in the lightweight division in the coming months. Coniro stated with confidence that Topuria will not compete in January, and even February appears highly unlikely. In his view, the earliest Topuria could realistically return is sometime in the spring. This contradicts earlier rumors but aligns with the latest internal whispers regarding scheduling changes and matchmaking adjustments. As Topuria's timeline moves further into the year, new reports have begun circulating that Paddy Pimblett may instead face Justin Gaethje on the inaugural UFC Paramount event. Coniro emphasized that multiple reliable sources have confirmed that UFC 324 is being targeted for a matchup between Pimblett and Gaethje, a fight that would generate massive fan interest and carry major implications for the lightweight title picture. Daniel Cormier also commented on this potential bout, suggesting that it could serve as the main event of the card. If the fight does take place, Cormier believes that the winner would be well positioned to face Ilia Topuria in the spring or summer. However, he noted that circumstances could shift depending on whether Dustin Poirier is offered a high-profile matchup against Islam Makhachev during a major event such as a White House celebration card or International Fight Week. These possibilities could influence Topuria's next opponent and alter the lightweight hierarchy. In the midst of all this, Arman Tsarukyan appears to be the odd man out, at least in the short term. Although many believe he has earned the right to be next in line based on merit and recent performances, the current matchmaking landscape may temporarily move him aside as the UFC pursues blockbuster fights and big-name opportunities. Overall, while the lightweight division remains unpredictable, one thing is clear: Ilia Topuria's return will likely come later than expected, setting up a pivotal stretch of matchups that could reshape the entire championship picture. Move on to another news. Daniel Cormier has responded strongly to recent comments made by Jon Jones, reigniting one of MMA's most storied rivalries. The exchange began when Jon Jones claimed that he had been offered a charity grappling match against Cormier. According to Jones, he immediately accepted, stating, "I said absolutely. Let's see what comes of it." Jones framed the situation as an exciting opportunity, even referencing his undefeated record against Cormier, 3-0 inches, a remark clearly intended to stir the pot. Shortly after these comments surfaced, new footage began circulating online showing Jon Jones in Chechnya, relaxed and enjoying local food with members of the community. Fans shared the clips widely, speculating about Jones' travels, training situation, and ongoing negotiations with the UFC. Cormier, who rarely hesitates to voice his opinion when Jones is involved, took notice and decided to respond publicly. Posting a comment under the circulating video, Cormier questioned why Jones was not spending Thanksgiving with his family. His comment read, "Why is Jon Jones not with his family on Thanksgiving holiday?" Though brief, the message was pointed and carried a clear tone of criticism. Cormier seemed to imply that despite Jones' claims of being ready for a charity match, his priorities, and perhaps his personal commitments, appeared questionable. Cormier's remark quickly gained traction online, with fans interpreting it as a subtle jab at Jones' history outside the cage. The timing, tone, and context revived the intense rivalry between the two former champions, reminding the MMA world that their competitive fire has never truly faded. While Jones' claim about a potential charity grappling match caught the attention of the community, Cormier's response highlighted the personal tension that has lingered for years. The exchange illustrates how little it takes for the rivalry between Cormier and Jones to resurface. Whether the charity match ever materializes remains doubtful, but one thing is certain: the tension between the two legends continues to simmer, and even a brief social media interaction is enough to reignite headlines throughout the MMA world. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan recently shared his candid thoughts on the upcoming boxing match between Jake Paul and former heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua, and he made it clear that he has little confidence in Paul's chances. When asked directly what he thought about the matchup, Rogan paused, almost struggling to find the right words before describing the situation as one of the craziest propositions of all time. Rogan emphasized that Jake Paul is stepping into a completely different universe of boxing by facing Joshua. He pointed out that Paul's most recent fight, a heavily publicized exhibition against a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, resembled more of a light sparring session than a competitive bout. Given that, Rogan argued, it's astonishing that Paul is now preparing to face one of the most dangerous knockout artists in modern heavyweight history. The gap in size, skill, experience, and power, he suggested, is nearly impossible to overstate. To illustrate his point, Rogan referenced Joshua's brutal knockout of Francis Ngannou, urging viewers to rewatch the highlights to truly understand what Joshua is capable of when he encounters someone outside his talent bracket. Rogan reminded listeners that Joshua is not only an Olympic gold medalist but also one of the most explosive and technically polished heavyweights of the era. When Joshua is confident and properly prepared, he can dismantle world-class opponents with frightening efficiency. Rogan acknowledged that Joshua has experienced setbacks, losing twice to Alexander Usyk and once to Andy Ruiz Jr., but he stressed that these losses occurred against elite competition. He described Usyk as perhaps the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time, and even suggested that Usyk might belong in the conversation for the greatest boxer of any weight class. Meanwhile, he praised Andy Ruiz for his exceptional hand speed, timing, vision, and skill that allowed him to shock the world in their first fight. Ultimately, Rogan's assessment was blunt: Jake Paul, despite his progress as a boxer, is stepping far beyond his depth. Facing someone with Joshua's pedigree, power, and championship-level experience is an entirely different challenge, one that Rogan believes Paul is drastically unprepared for.